Let me first, on behalf of St. James Missionary Baptist Church, welcome you all to our humble abode here. Amen. And we're just so thankful that you come out tonight, and thank the mayor and the staff for coming out and having the town hall meeting here. So, whatever we have here is yours tonight, and we just certainly extend the warmest welcome that we possibly can, and hope that this meeting will be beneficial to everyone. And so at this time, I will just turn it over to the mayor and his team to begin the meeting. But once again, on behalf of this church fellowship, for 148 years being here in this community, we want to say thank you for coming.
Well, I certainly want to thank Pastor Smith and the St. James Baptist Church for certainly graciously allowing us to have our town hall meeting in this great facility. And so I wanted to recap some of the things that we have done since the last town hall meeting, which was around 6 months ago. Last one, I believe, was in March. So from April till now, I will give you a recap of some of the things that we have accomplished in the city, some of the discussions we've had, some of the votes that we've taken by the city council. Let's start with the month of April. The month of April was the month that we sold the Tyson's facility, the old Tyson's building down there, and now we are making that another business is going there. Come and Go is going in there. In May, the city council passed the Woolsey Family Homestead resolution to study on how we can preserve that farm. Let's see, in June was the 5-year lease of the patio around the old post office. Some of the stuff I'd forgotten about, I went to recap in the city council minutes. In July, there was an ordinance passed to better control door-to-door solicitation. We also passed a resolution on the National Revenue Neutral Carbon Fee Dividend support from the City Council. In August, we passed the special election for the HMR bond to, one, extend town hall bonds if the people pass these initiatives, and two, which will allow for the funding of the WAC, which is Walton Arts Center expansion, which is $6.9 million, and number three on the ballot will be funding for the regional park of $3.5 million. Also that month, in August, we passed the funding for the expansion of the Lights of the Ozarks, which will take it from the square now down Block Street and Dixon Street. So the Lights of the Ozarks will be expanding. So I certainly want to thank the council for doing that. In September was the regulation of the wheel clamps and the booting ordinance. We also are looking at a study of the feasibility for interdepartmental resource efficiency loans. And in the month of September, we opened up the new recycling center just off North Street over here. For the future, some of the things that we're going to be looking at, City Council will be looking at, and staff and this administration will be, there is a height limitation ordinance coming to the City Council. The flyover is under construction out by the mall. It's due to be completed by 2014. The roundabout is completed, same area. The deck is scheduled to begin work in 2014. The Van Ash extension due to start in 2014, which will be a connection from the Sam's Club to the mall. Rupel Road, we're looking at that being scheduled for 2015. Will be from MLK all the way to Mount Comfort. Sidewalk program. Right now, we've been putting about $500,000 a year in sidewalks, and that's going to go to, we want to expand that to $1.3 million, about $800,000 more per year. So we'll be looking at tripling sidewalk production. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to get that many feet because it depends on your terrain, but that is the goal. Let's take it from 12,000 running feet to 36,000 running feet. The economic development end of it, we have seen 67 new businesses and over 300 jobs since January. I also want to take the time to recognize, I see Mark Kenyon from Ward 2, I see Al Long from Ward 4, and Rhonda Adams from Ward 4. Thank you all for being here. Now, that's what I have as the overall report from the mayor. Now, let's see, what else? Oh, wait a minute. We're also looking at the urban agri ordinance, which is of interest to a lot of people. And we also have started our wayfinding signage program, which you're beginning to see all over town. At this time, I will turn over the reports from each department head, and we will start with Paul Becker from Finance.
Good evening. For purposes of introduction, for those of you who may not know me, my name is Paul Becker. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of the City of Fayetteville. Traditionally, we begin the budget process in September. We begin the budget process by looking at the levy, or how much in property taxes is extended on property taxes throughout the city. We look at the general fund so to demonstrate whether or not how much we need to extend for property taxes throughout the city. Here's the mayor's recommendation to the council, is that we continue the same millage rate as that we have had in the past. That's 3.1 mil overall for the city. However, the city general fund gets 1.3 mil of that. 0.4 mil goes to the old fire pension plan, 0.4 mil to the old police pension plan, and 1 mil goes to the library. So the city gets 1.3 mils in the general fund. Now that generates about $1,700,000 toward funding in the general fund. This year, right now, we expect the general fund to be about $37.4 million. That's up from $36.1 million last year. The reason it's up is due to salary increases, which the mayor recommended, and the council approved beginning in the first quarter this year. It also will pay for some additional pension costs for the police and fire LAFD program. We anticipate some fuel increases. We also anticipate and have granted a few increases to outside agencies being Senior Center, which we're granting an increase to, the Boys and Girls Club. So those are some of the outside entities, plus the library. We've increased our funding to the library, which we do each year. Therefore, based on that, we feel that we need to continue the millage. Again, the millage rate is about $1.7 million. Now, the key indicator and the key factor in the general fund is when we look at sales tax. Sales tax this year has been doing pretty good. Right now, we're averaging about 3.5 to 3.8% increase between now and the end of the year as compared to last year. That will help fund a lot of our increases. We had to increase the budget, as I said, about $1.6 million this year. Sales tax will help fund that, but we're also looking at some increases in other sources. We do, however, want to keep the property taxes consistent at their previous levels. Hopefully, we'll be able to put some money for contingency and salary. We're looking at putting in maybe $300,000 to $400,000 at this point in time. Now, that's contingent on how we finish the end of the year, how we finish 2013, what our fund balance position looks at that point in time, whether or not we have surplus this year, and how revenue is looking moving forward to next year. So we're going to use the same approach that the mayor has since he's been in office, and that is to look at salaries in the first quarter of the year, make a recommendation to the council on whether or not he feels we can afford salaries. If so, how much. The council will certainly look at it very carefully, and decide if in fact they feel that that's appropriate at that point in time. So we don't have salaries in the budget per se. We're going to look at what happens in the first quarter of next year and make a decision at that point in time. I think that's very, very prudent. And like I say, at this point in time, we're anticipating we'll finish out about 3.5 to 3.8% increase in sales tax at the end of this year, and we are anticipating seeing about 2% increase next year. 2% didn't come out of a hat. 2% is generally, at least from the conferences that the mayor and I and most of the finance people I know have looked at, talk about a real GNP growth of between 1.5% and 2% moving forward next year. So that's what we're basing that increase on. Generally, that'll be inflationary more than anything, but we feel that's a conservative approach at this point in time. Again, we're all going to look at that later in the year. We have a meeting scheduled for the council on November 9th at City Hall, and the public is welcome to come. And we'll hash out and look at the full budget at that point in time. But the first move we have to make now is for the council to decide on the millage for next year. That has to be done by the end of October. So that's where we are now and what we plan to do moving forward. And that's all I have at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Terry?
Yes, I'm Terry Gilley. I'm the Transportation Services Director for the city. I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about a new program we're doing for street preservation, and that is microsurfacing. And I'll give you a little background on what all that entails. One thing, and one reason we got to looking into this is it's a way to reduce the cost of our mill and overlay program. We're determining that we can save around 40% on a street as compared to milling 2 inches of asphalt and replacing it with 2 full inches of asphalt. So what we do in this case is of a street. This is kind of a street before that we determined fit the profile for this treatment, and you can kind of see through it. There's a green button on the top. All right. Like right in here, we went through and we crack sealed any cracks down through here that were 1/4 inch or less in width. We could fill with the crack sealant, and then you smooth that off as you do that. And it kind of puts a different look on the street. It kind of looks like a patchwork quilt a little bit by doing that. But the purpose of this is to go in and give a clean, smooth surface. We go in there, or the company comes in, weed eats the grass you can see in the cracks, removes all the debris, blows it clean after we do the crack sealant, and then they will come in and start putting the treatment on. And the big advantages to this is it reseals the asphalt. You're picking asphalt that does not have soft spots, have not yet developed any heavy cracking. They do not have potholes. If we do have a soft spot, we can repair that prior to that and do all those repairs. But you still have to pick asphalt streets are in good condition. These are approximately 10, 12 years old. They've not deteriorated very far, so they're very good candidates for this. You can kind of see there's a lot of graying on the asphalt. It's not really black anymore, which means it's losing some of its asphalt content. And so this process is kind of a rejuvenation process where it adds that oil back into the system, and it will help refurbish the asphalt there, plus it puts on about a 3/8 inch thickness of essentially really fine rock, some cement, the asphalt emulsion, and then it's all mixed together and then spread. It kind of comes out, some of the old ways was called slurry seal, but it comes out and they spread it, and you'll see that here in a minute. I'll go. This is an example here. This is in the lower right is the truck that applies this. It kind of just has a trough on the back of it that pulls along and leaves this thin coat. Then they'll have several workers there that will essentially move this almost with squeegees, and they'll smooth it around. And you can kind of see here a little bit right behind the truck, it almost looks brown. Well, that's due to the water being mixed in to help give it enough flexibility to move it around. The water evaporates out fairly quickly, and within 30 minutes it turns black. So it's the water being mixed in there that gives it that brown color. You can see here up in the upper left, the right side where the sun's on it is brown, and the other is already starting to turn black. This is a cul-de-sac. We were working an area out off Salem Road by Bryce Davis Park, and behind the Harps out on West Weddington. What we do is we have a contract with this for a company to come in and do it. We do not have this type of equipment, but they come in, they do handouts the day prior to working on your street. They knock on doors the morning of. They'll give you a time period of when you can and cannot go and when you've got to get out of your house or you're kind of stuck there, but we give a lot of advance warning to that. Approximately 2 hours after the application is applied, they'll allow traffic back on it and you can get out of there. The minimal, if you're on these type of streets, the minimum amount of setting still and turning your steering wheel really helps us out, because that's what the process that does the most damage, because it's still setting up. But I'll give you some more examples here. This is another application where the truck's pulling the sled behind it and it's spreading that out. The lower right shows you where we've done the left half of the street and the right half is still yet to be done. But it makes a stark difference in the way it looks. This is a close-up of it where you can see the crack ceiling was done and all that, and all those repairs prior to this application just disappeared. You can see it's a nice, neat, clean finish. This one in the bottom here, you can see where it's applied in the top and not yet in the bottom. It's just a close-up of that. There again, one half of the street done, one not. It makes a marked difference on the look of it. To most people, if you left in the morning, came back in the afternoon, you really couldn't hardly tell the difference whether we had done this or milled and overlaid your street, and we looked like we were really quick. And this is an example of the finished product where they've done both sides and the cross street. And you can see from the sheen down here on the bottom that it gives a good seal, and that's what we're after. Is the big thing in asphalt and keeping your asphalt in good condition is keeping the water from penetrating through the asphalt and getting down into the subbase. If the subbase doesn't get wet and doesn't fail, your asphalt on the surface stays in good shape. Another example of a finished product. Essentially gives a brand new look to that street. Looks like it just been put there for the first time. And this is just an example of, or a list of the streets out in the western part of town that we've done. In this particular group, we also, about 2 months ago, we did the Summer Hill neighborhood on the northeast part of town, parts of Old Missouri, and East Ash Street. And actually Market Street over by where Blockbuster used to be, over by Hobby Lobby. But there'll be more of this coming in the future. We're looking at expanding it in the future. It allows us to take good streets that just need some reconditioning and make them look new again. And we're hopefully get to extend the life of these streets by an additional 9 years. Like I said, at a 40% savings in the cost of doing it the traditional way we've done it in the past. So anyway, that's all I've got on that.
Yes, thank you. Hi, I'm Chris Brown. I'm the city engineer. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Transportation Bond Program. It's a program that was approved in 2006 by voters. It's about a $65.9 million program. We're authorized to issue bonds up to that amount. We've been able to leverage that for an additional $25 million in federal aid funding, so about $90 million worth of projects. 6 projects have been completed. We have 5 more under construction. A couple of them, Cato Springs Road and Highway 265, are complete or nearing, very near to completion. Other projects under construction are Highway 112, just outside the door here. Highway 16 from Happy Hollow out to Stonebridge Road, and then as the mayor mentioned, the flyover project. That's a project that I've not heard anybody say one bad thing about it. Even my wife, who's my harshest critic, has given me good feedback about it. So I know that we've done something right with that one when I hear that. It's a very, very nice project. And got a really good contractor. I want to compliment them again. I compliment them every chance I get, but they've done a really, really good job, and I expect them to continue to do that. Recently, the council approved another $22 million in bonds, so we'll be able to move forward with our third phase of projects. And again, as the mayor mentioned, Van Ash is one that's really first on our agenda to get that extension under construction, hopefully in early 2014. Rupel Road extension is also, the mayor mentioned that one also. He said 2015. We may be able to get it going just a little bit sooner than that, but very late 2014 or 2015 is realistic. And then in future years, we'll have some additional projects, Zion Road, Old Wire Road, and then enhancements to College Avenue, similar to what we did under the first phase. We'll continue on up from Maple Street up to North Street. We're also continuing to pursue federal aid funding using these bonds as matching money. We actually put in 4 applications for additional funding just recently. So I expect at least some of those will be funded, so we'll again be able to extend our dollars even further. Lastly, these are not bond projects, but I know they're of interest to many people. The I-540 improvements that the Highway Department is undertaking, the Weddington to Porter Road widening, they're just getting started with that project. The contractor's out there and they're setting up. That's about a $16 million project to widen between Weddington and Porter Road, replace both bridges over the Porter Road exit. And then in 2015 is when the fund really begins. The Weddington interchange, the Highway 62 interchange, and the Highway 71B 112 interchange are all scheduled to start in 2015. So forget about driving I-540 during that period of time. The Weddington interchange is about a $20 million estimate. 62 is $25 million, and then the 71B 112 interchange is estimated at $55 million. So very, very large investment on I-540 that the Highway Department is making. That's just in Fayetteville. That's extending really all the way up through Bella Vista on 540. So those projects are coming, and the department really did a pretty good job with the first section that they worked on between 62 and Weddington. A lot of that work was done at night. They were able to avoid a lot of additional traffic tie-ups. So I expect they're going to do some of those same sort of things, but they are planning to replace the bridge, again, on Porter Road. They're going to be replacing the 112 bridge over the highway. So obviously there will be some traffic tie-ups when those things are happening, but again, it's a large investment and will take some time, but we expect to really see those improvements coming in 2017, 2018. That's all I have.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brian Pugh, and I'm the Waste Reduction Coordinator for the City of Fayetteville. And I was asked to come and talk about the new Marion Orton Recycling Center, which is opened up now basically right across the street from us here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and then I want to discuss some of the things that we've got going on in our solid waste division. We opened up the site a few weeks ago. It's located at 735 West North Street, which is basically right by the trail crossing on North Street. Marion Orton was a mayor in Fayetteville back in the 70s, and she was one of the early pioneers of recycling in Fayetteville. So the mayor felt it was to honor her legacy on recycling that we should name the center after her. This is actually the second site, and Rhonda, I'm sorry I left you out of this, but this is actually the second recycling drop-off site that the city operates. We currently have a site located at our solid waste division, which is over off of South Happy Hollow Road. 1560 South Happy Hollow Road is where the solid waste division is at. Out in front of that location, there is a recycling drop-off that is open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It's used quite heavily. But we felt like we needed to move our recycling drop-off centers around town so we can make it easier for people to participate in our recycling program. And the site that was located right across the street here was a city-owned parcel of land that is surrounded by a lot of apartment complexes. And so with our apartment program that we've started, which I'll mention here briefly in a little bit, another aspect of that is making it convenient for people to be close to a recycling option. And so having all these apartments around this center is going to enable us to go out and try to educate these tenants in these apartment complexes and let them know that there's recycling options basically right around the corner from them. So that was one of the main things that we liked about this location. Being in the center of town, allowing people to easily access it was also another. This site, however, is a little bit different in the respect that it will have set hours. It's not open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but it is open from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Wednesday and Saturday, Friday, and Saturday. The only day that the hours are different are on Thursdays, and that's from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Thursday. So we felt it was important to give some time after 5 o'clock for people to have access to that site. And that was basically done on information of our current location, looking at the number of customers that come into our current location is why we set those hours to that way. So we feel like we have some hours in which people can easily access the site and recycle their materials. So you might be wondering, well, what can you recycle at this center? It takes all the same items that we take in our curb sort program. So, for instance, newspaper, mixed paper, cardboard, which includes not only the corrugated cardboard boxes, but what they call chipboard, which is like cereal boxes, shoe boxes, things of that nature. That all goes into the cardboard container. Aluminum cans, steel cans, and it's very important for the public to know this part, the plastics. Number 1, plastic bottles, and number 2, plastic bottles. Those are the only types of plastics that we can recycle at this time due to market conditions in the recycling industry. So just number 1 bottles, number 2 bottles, if you don't know what those are, basically they're water bottles, soda bottles for number 1, milk jugs, and detergent bottles for number 2. And those can, if you look on the bottom of those bottles, they'll tell you what the type of plastic is. Told you where it's at and times and all of that. We do have 2 other sites. The other site, in addition to the Happy Hollow site, is actually not operated by the city, but we do service that location, and that's at Ozark Natural Foods. Ozark Natural Foods has a facility right out in front of their store for the public to use, and it's open at all hours as well. They felt that it's important to offer that recycling option to their customers and to the public. So we're very fortunate that we have a partner like Ozark Natural Foods that can help us have another location to recycle our materials. Now I want to kind of go and tell you a little bit about what's coming up in October, because we've got a lot of things happening in October. And I want to start with the fact that we have bulky waste cleanups, 2 of them scheduled for this month. For those of you who might not know, bulky waste cleanups, if you have large items that you cannot fit into your normal trash can at the curb, you can get rid of these items through these bulky waste cleanups. And we have 8 of them per year, 4 in the spring and 4 in the fall. And the ones that are coming up here this month in October, we have Ward 4, which is on October 5th, and that's going to be at Owl Creek School and Holcomb Elementary. These cleanups go from 7 a.m. in the morning till 2 p.m. in the afternoon. All of the cleanups are the same times. And then we have Ward 3 happening on October 26th, which is at the Elks Lodge on North Crossover and Vandergrift Elementary, off of Township. So that, if you have those large items, furniture, appliances, if you're remodeling your home and you have carpet or you have some drywall, stuff like that, that is what these cleanups are for. We want to give people the opportunity to get rid of these big items and discourage illegal disposal of those items. So the other thing I wanted to mention, one of several here, is we're also giving away mulch at this time. We have a large pile of mulch that we need to get rid of. And so people sometimes wonder what the difference between mulch and compost is. Compost is the leaves and the grass that we've actually gone through the composting process where we grind it up, put it in long rows. It goes for a period of time. Bacteria actually changes that material over to a compost, which is like a soil-looking material. That's not what we're giving away. That stuff's very popular. People love that stuff. So we have to be very diligent in only selling that back to the Fayetteville residents. But the mulch is the ground-up trees. So every kind of tree that is in Fayetteville that comes through our composting operation, if we have that separated, we'll grind that material and make mulch out of it. So mulch is the wood chips. It's really good for moisture retention around plants. So the only drawback from that is that it's every type of tree. It's not like a cypress mulch or a pine mulch or something like that. So if you want mulch for free, you can come to our compost facility, which is open on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock over off of Armstrong, 1708 Armstrong. And then on the weekend hours this month, the first 2 Saturdays in October, October 5th and October 12th, that site will be open from 8 o'clock until noon. So you can come drop off yard waste materials. It's free to the city of Fayetteville residents, but if you want some mulch, you can come get that for free as well. October 26th, we are having the second Paper and Pills event. And so Paper and Pills, what that is, it's a paper shredding event. People have documents that don't need to get out into public, so we don't encourage recycling those through the traditional means. We encourage taking those to the shredding events in which you can sit there and watch that material get shredded and help protect your identity and security of your documents. So that is the paper part of the Paper and Pills event. The pills part is actually a take-back medication, prescription medication event. And that is actually a national event that the DEA sponsors across the country. October 26th is when they had set that date. It's a good thing for us to partner with them. And that is from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, October 26th, which is a Saturday. It's going to be at the World Gym on North College. There's a Lake Fayetteville cleanup. Anybody that wants to go out and keep Fayetteville beautiful, Lake Fayetteville cleanup on October 12th from 9 o'clock until 1. There's 3 sites that you can register at the Lake Fayetteville Marina, Veterans Park, and the Environmental Center, which actually happens to be in Springdale. You can go there at 9 o'clock, get registered, go help clean up Lake Fayetteville. The nice thing about that is after the event is over with, they feed you lunch. So if you work up an appetite and get hungry, you can get lunch off of that deal. E-waste. People might be wondering, what is e-waste? E-waste is anything like a television, computer, monitor, printer, things like that we have that we need to get rid of, end-of-life items. If you have one of those type items, if you took that down to the Washington County Household Hazardous Waste facility, there would be a charge of $5 to dispose of that. The city has actually got a grant program from the state of Arkansas in which we can give out these coupons to Fayetteville residents in which we make that free to somebody who wants to come and recycle their e-waste. So if anybody in here would like to have one, we have a whole stack of them here. If not, if anybody's watching and would like to learn more about this program, they can contact the Solid Waste Department and we'll make sure they get those. So that's another thing that we're offering. And then just briefly I wanted to mention that we have started apartment recycling. We have 5 large apartment complexes recycling with us, over 100 units in size. We are going to be looking for more. We've got containers that are source separated that go along with our curb sort program of source separation, and we want to find apartment complexes that are willing to recycle with us. And then we've started a commercial glass recycling program in our entertainment district on Dixon Street, and so far we are pulling about 3 tons of glass a week off of Dixon Street for recycling, so we're pretty excited about that. The other thing, the last thing I want to mention is on Dixon Street we have started a cigarette litter prevention program in which we're trying to educate people about the importance of not littering cigarette butts. We've talked with businesses. We've given them some tools like these pocket ashtrays in which they can give their patrons or their workers to encourage them to put their cigarette butts in these and then dispose of them when they get to a place where they can put that into a trash can as opposed to dumping that onto the ground. Unfortunately, on Dixon Street, we have a very large problem with cigarette litter on Dixon Street. The surveys that we did for this show that there was, in 1 week, over 3,000 cigarette butts on Dixon Street that were discarded on the streets or in the gutters or on sidewalks or something of that nature on Dixon Street. So we are really trying hard to educate people about the importance of keeping that out of the environment, protect our water quality, and make our city beautiful. So that's all I have at this time. Oh, I'm sorry, I do. It's very important. Yes, thank you, Mayor. Recently, the City of Fayetteville was honored with the Arkansas Recycling Coalition. Arkansas Recycling Coalition is a statewide nonprofit trade organization that encourages the growth of recycling programs through municipal programs and business programs. And this year, last week was the annual conference up in Eureka Springs. The City of Fayetteville was awarded the Government Recycler of the Year for this year. So it was a very big deal for the City of Fayetteville. Mayor Jordan came and was able to accept the award as well. And recently I've been getting emails saying, congratulations, Brian, you know, good job doing all that. But really, it's the people in Fayetteville that earn that award. It's the people that put their recycling out each week that gets us up to that 56% participation level that helped us get that award. The national average is in the 30s. We're at 56%. We have a goal to get to 70% by 2015. So I also want to thank the workers that work for solid waste and recycling, those recycling drivers that go out there, whether it's 100 degrees or 20 degrees, and pick up those bins and sort through that material and get that material separated where it's nice and clean and makes it easy for us to market and sell. Those are the people. They deserve that award just as much as the residents of Fayetteville who take the time to separate their waste and participate at the curb. So it's really a citywide effort, and it's one that we should all be proud of. So.
Thank you for your work. Chairman.
All right. My name is Jeremy Pate. I'm the Director of Development Services for the city. And how many of you have seen some of these signs popping up around town? Yeah. All right, great. These are brand new. We have, I think, 8 or 9 installed now. They're called, okay. Is that better? Is that on? Okay. They're called wayfinding signs. Pretty logical name. Essentially, they're helping to find your way somewhere. Oftentimes, people think these are just for visitors. In Bentonville, when they installed a similar program around the opening of Crystal Bridges, they actually got more comments from residents saying, I never knew how to get to that place, or I didn't know that was the easiest way to get there. And that's the feedback that they heard. We expect to hear some of the same. 2 years ago, in 2011, the Endeavor Foundation and the Northwest Arkansas Council partnered to apply for a grant through the Walton Family Foundation. They got the grant, fortunately, and it was about $350,000 to essentially design a wayfinding sign program for Northwest Arkansas. And there were 7 cities that participated. I'll have to look at my list to not miss one. Fayetteville, of course, Springdale, Lowell, Rogers, Siloam Springs, Bella Vista, and actually Eureka Springs was one of the cities as well. The grant funded, like I said, the design, which MERGE, you can see there, MERJE, was the consultants that had designed the Bentonville wayfinding sign. We, through economies of scale, were able to utilize their program and cut down on our design cost and utilizing a very similar design. One of the reasons for this that we believe the Walton Family Foundation thought it was an important program was to sort of brand us regionally. We can leverage our resources regionally a lot more times than we can just each of us locally. And so we were able to come together as 7 cities with very unique identities that come together around a common theme and be able to get this sign package put together. The first phase of the program has about, it depends on the city size, but basically there's one location that the grant funded for each city. We have about 10 or 11 signs total for our first location, and it happens to be the downtown square. If you look at the signs that are installed, some of them say Dixon Street or Downtown Square. There's several locations. It's because we have future plans for that as well throughout the rest of this year, as do many of the other cities in this region. One of the performance metrics or measurables that we agreed to do as part of the grant, receiving the money, is we had to install more signs than just the pilot project that the Family Foundation was funding. So we sat down over several months looking at different locations. They have to be public places. You can't sign to a certain business, for instance, or to the mall or to a restaurant. It has to be more public locations. And that's part of the Highway Department's criteria and part of the criteria that we as a region agreed upon. And so we chose locations where we felt as a first phase would be important for people to get to, visitors to get to. So you'll see a number of these signs, and I'll go through some of those in some images, but something like the University of Arkansas, the Walton Arts Center, the Downtown Square, the Public Library, and places such as that. Many of our courthouses we decided to go ahead and sign. And so you'll see signs that vary in scale. Most of the ones that you see right now coming from I-540 into downtown look like the ones on the right. So they're the 2 posts. They're rather large. That's a requirement by the Highway Department for the size. It's based on speed limits and a number of studies that says what the size of sign is traveling at that speed and what you need to read. They're limited to a maximum of 3 messages. So all those are criteria that we have to follow. But there's some custom things about it as well. So the blue is similar in all the cities. And the size and the arrows all look the same. We got to customize the color here. Obviously, it says Fayetteville. We chose the green for Fayetteville with the little kind of a maroon or red line there. Got to choose the style of the post that each one looks at, and then also this back graphic that you see. There's a couple of these installed in the smaller signs in downtown. You'll see more of those. This is representative of the hills. Rolling hills, essentially, in Fayetteville, and we felt that was a nice graphic to represent Fayetteville. Each city has their own, so I'd challenge you to go and look at each city sign and see if you can connect the dots on what the city, what they chose in terms of their graphic. As I mentioned, these are the ones that are installed most. You'll see a couple of these that just went in this last week on Highway 71B near the downtown. And they reference, I think, Walton Arts Center and Downtown Square. That's all part of the pilot project. So through this month, in all 7 cities, the pilot project, the one destination, have essentially been installed. There are a few that we had some utility locations, and that's happened throughout all the cities that we've had to either hold off. For instance, we're constructing a tunnel under MLK and a trail right now. There's a sign that goes right there. So we're not going to put it in and then take it out. We've decided to just hold on to that sign until that construction is complete. But you'll also see some smaller ones here, such as these go in. Let's see if I can forward this. Overall, as I mentioned, the grant funded about $350,000 worth of signs throughout the 7 cities. Most of the cities decided, as part of this process, to go ahead and fund the rest of their phases all at once. So Fayetteville kind of led that charge. We decided through an agreement with the council and the mayor's leadership that we wanted to go ahead and do all of our sign package at once. So we approached the Advertising and Promotions Commission, and they agreed to fund a portion of that. So we're splitting the funding on that project, and all of these will be installed. We're hoping by the end of this year we'll have that complete. For roughly 60 signs. I think it's give or take a few there within Fayetteville. I'll show you a map later. Those are not all in downtown. They expand out to Lake Fayetteville, out to some of our larger parks, to really give people a sense of the different attractions that Fayetteville has to offer. So it's really good for the Walton Family Foundation. They don't just give money away to give money away. They have reasons for it. And so tourism and bringing people here, quality of life issues, those are the reasons that they're willing to give grants like this. And so we're hoping that regionally, people driving up and down the corridor, visiting each city, will be able to find where they're going. We hope to have some parking signs, as you mentioned, through part of some of our parking decks. We have some kiosks. We'll actually have about 10 pedestrian signs They're much smaller. You can't read them on the screen here, but they'll be located primarily on Dixon Street in the square near a library to get pedestrians where they need to go. You can have many more messages, I think up to 10 messages per sign for these pedestrian signs because you obviously can stop and actually read where you're going. But we have many more locations listed on those. Just some specifications. I'm going to run through a couple of these. We have three kiosks actually that will also be installed. We hope to design a map that would go on one, kind of like if you go to a mall and you see a directory and you see kind of where businesses are or places to go. We hope to have one of those for 3 locations in our downtown as well. And then the other side of the kiosk would be installed to hopefully advertise for public events, things at the town center, things at Walton Arts Center, maybe at the library. So those are hopefully will be very useful for citizens and residents and visitors. Let's see here. I guess that's all the slides. As I mentioned, there was a lot of thought put into all the different locations. We put together a large map that shows locations out to the botanical gardens, to Lake Fayetteville, which, as you know, is really sort of a community park that we see a lot of visitation to. Obviously, Walton Arts Center and the downtown library, which those 2 institutions alone draw over 500,000 visitors a year, and so those we felt were very important to get people in the right place. And we really don't anticipate this is the end of the signage. Hopefully we'll get it there. We actually already have a running list of people who say, hey, these are great ideas. Here's some more that we didn't think of. Uptown Fayetteville, I think we have 1 or 2 signs to get to Uptown. But so we'll be thinking about gateway signs and things of that nature as well. So if you like them, let us know. So far we've had really positive comments about them, and you will see more coming in the future. So thanks.
My name is David Juergens. I'm the Utilities Director and Project Manager for the Parking Deck Project. And I'm going to talk about the Entertainment District Parking Deck that is under design as we speak. I'll give an update on the schedule, where we are, some looks at the elevations, what it's going to look like from each different direction, and talk a little bit about what I refer to as grinding the sausage. That is the process of design and why does it take so darn long to get from, yes, we're going to do this thing, to actually turning dirt to make it happen. Obviously, that's the location in the general vicinity of where we are. We're going back. We had several locations that we were considering: the large Walton Arts Center parking lot, the theater lot immediately adjacent to the Walton Arts Center, just to orient. This is Dixon Street here, West Avenue, Spring Street, and then School Street. These are the 4 lots that the city owns. We considered the large lot, south lot, east lot, and the theater lot. And the City Council elected, after a great deal of study and deliberation, to actually put the deck at this location right here. So this is a large Walton Arts Center building. This is Grubbs, for those that have ever eaten there. Grubbs will stay in its location. It will not be taken down for this project. And we'll actually be building the parking deck with its liner buildings at this location. The darker areas are where there will be liner buildings, and then the parking area will be here. If you notice, this is the existing Walton Arts Center administration building. It's causing a little bit of angst with the Walton Arts Center staff because we're going to tear their building down and replace it with the North Liner building. So part of our project is to remove that structure and replace it with the new structure that is the North Liner building to the facility. Project team includes both the city project team, our architects and engineers, as well as the Walton Arts Center project team. I spent about 3 hours in a meeting with the combined team last Thursday going over the details of design, layout, what's going to go where. It's been a very, very interesting process. Along with this, in parallel to the city's process for the actual parking deck facility, the Walton Arts Center portion of the team has been designing and laying out the entire Walton Arts Center expansion. That's theirs to talk about, but it's a simultaneous project and has a direct relationship in several ways to the parking deck project. Okay, this is what was submitted to the Planning Commission several months ago, and I'll look at each one of these views in a little bit more detail in a moment. But this is what was submitted to and approved by the Planning Commission several months ago. There will be some minor modifications to this as we go along, as I refer to it, grinding the sausage in design and making sure we build the most affordable facility that we can. First of all, looking at the view from the west. So we are at West Avenue in the large Walton Arts Center parking lot looking towards the Walton Arts Center right here. Their loading dock, which is where the tractor trailer is. And for those of you that are not aware, some of their shows take up to 9 tractor trailer loads of stuff, not counting the people, to actually put together their production. So on the day before or 2 days before a show, there may be as many as 9 tractor trailers that come in there, offload their stuff, and then leave. A very, very busy place during that time. You don't want to get in their way because they will run you over, I promise. Right here, we show that you can actually see the parking deck, but truly that will be covered up by the view with the Grubbs building. Looking at the view from the north, this does not have any colors on it because when we put this together for the Planning Commission, at that point, Bora, the Walton Arts Center architects, had not yet determined whatever their color facing was going to be. So at this point, it's still gray, and that's under their call. The view from the east. So this is if you're in the east lot looking across School Street towards the sunset. As you can see, down on Spring Street, we're at the lowest elevation. There's a pretty good slope that comes up, and it actually makes 1 floor difference in the height of the deck. So down here we have 3 stories. Here we only have 2 where we'll be parking the vehicles. If you notice, we have a green screen that's planned on the first level, and then actually it's kind of a rusted metal type colored screen on the top portion of the deck. South elevation, so in this case you're looking from Spring Street to the north, and this is where you see the highest portion of the deck. And here again, this is the liner building on the south side, liner building on the east side, and then that same color screen as you view from the south. This is just kind of a rendering if you're up in the air, which nobody could be there, looking from the southeast corner. If you note on this one, we had 2 levels worth of liner building, this one being on ground level on the south side, this one going up to close to ground level on the east side. I point that out because that's one of the items that will probably change as one of the value engineering processes. First, I'm going to talk about the timeline. Everything in yellow is done. The city leadership decided, the mayor and the city council decided now almost 2 years ago that they wanted to do the project. And said, this is how we're going to do it, this is how we're going to fund it. That's when the bond ordinance was approved, and then we've gone through the process of making an actual construction project occur since then. We have accomplished a great deal. Still can't see it on the ground except for some deep holes in the ground, about 75 feet deep where we did all the borings, but we've accomplished a great deal and more is being done every day. Where we are now, detailed design value engineering, which we expect to go on for a few more months. Grinding the sausage. I'll describe what that means in just a minute. As we look at this right here, this is showing the south and east liner buildings. So if you remember that aerial view where you see the south liner building and the east liner building, this is looking at that, and what we did, we considered it. It's hard to talk with a microphone in my hand because my hands flap around too much. So you have to forgive me if I get a little bit off on the mic. When we were thinking about the liner buildings, the thought was just continue the slab out, the concrete out from where you park to become the floor of the liner building on the east side. It just kind of makes sense. You got concrete slab, you go on out, and you put walls around it, and you've got your building. Well, our parking deck consultant said, that sounds like a really good idea. But if you've ever stood on a bridge as cars drive over it and trucks drive over it, you can feel that structure move. It's designed to do that. The same thing happens in the parking deck, only not quite as much movement. But if you're sitting in an office chair in a liner building, you don't really want to be bouncing up and down every time a car drives by. Okay, that makes sense. So the structural engineer, when we were sitting down with the entire team saying, okay, what did we have in here that cost more than we thought it should? How can we bring the cost down? And this is the process you go through with every project like this. What can we do to make it better, to bring more value to the customer, either by reducing cost or increasing efficiency of the facility? He said, well, that east liner building, I had to design a totally independent structure. This is the structural engineer talking, and occasionally we can understand guys like that. sometimes, they're way off in geek speak, but this one actually made sense to normal people. He said, I built an entirely independent foundation structure for that east liner building so that you wouldn't have that vibration. Okay. He said, that costs a lot of money. If we bring that structure down to ground level, where it's a ground slab that doesn't have that bouncy every time a car goes by, then we can save a lot of money off the project. So we had the engineering team go through and reevaluate that, and in fact, we're estimating around $250,000 on the project. Okay, that's cool. That's success. That's the process we're going through. Another piece of what we're going through is the communication between the engineers, bless their hearts. They don't speak normal people speak very often, and yes, I are one, so I know what they are. And then contractor, who's going to actually build the project, because we selected Baldwin & Shell as the construction manager for this project. And a good example on that one is when the engineer gave the plans to the contractor, he had piers coming up out of the ground, and then columns going up into the air. So you have the underground structure transforming to the above ground structure. Well, when the contractor saw it, he said, okay, you have piers, or piles, you have pier caps, which is a big old hunk of concrete about yay by yay by about yay, that you've got to form up, build, and then from that you have the above ground structure, the columns coming out that hold the structure up above ground. The engineer was looking at it and saying, why all the money for the pile caps or for the pier caps? The contractor said, well, da-da-da-da-da. The structural engineer said, again, for one of his rare moments of speaking normal people speak that all of us could understand, said, well, I was just envisioning a column essentially at the top of the pier being like a column coming up out of the ground, formed with steel, the rebar coming up out of it, and then the column being built right on top, eliminating all of that pier cap structure, which again saved us about $250,000 when we put the engineer, the designers, the contractor, and the customer all in the same room talking through every single line of detail. That's what I refer to as grinding the sausage. If you all were to stick your head above this ceiling tile right here and look at all of the different stuff that's up there, you would be absolutely amazed at all of the detail that goes into design. So that's where we are, and that's what we're doing. So what we're looking at is the revised elevation where now the ceiling of those two liner buildings will be at the same part. Originally, this east liner building was at this level. We brought it down one. The ceiling is at the same level. This is the view from School Street, or School Avenue, so that then becomes an area that is actually a flat surface area that can be used for public uses, depending on what we deem to be a good need. What that did, it added actually 3 spaces. Now, think about it. We're here to build a parking deck. That modification added 3 spaces. 3's not a lot, but when the lot is full, you'll love getting one of those last 3 spaces. It reduced the square footage of liner building, but liner building is not the primary goal, it's a secondary objective. It added that outdoor space, which the folks that have there's a National Endowment of the Arts grant to evaluate artifying. Okay, I'm an engineer, so you have to forgive me for my term there. Artifying South School Street. They were really excited when I talked about this because it gives them a playground to work with. And then it saved between $150,000 and $400,000. That's value engineering, and that's what the process we're going through right now. So back to the schedule and where we are. We are in this process, detailed design value engineering. We expect to complete that in the early part of 2014. We will then go into soliciting bids for all of our contracts and then move forward into construction, and we expect a 12 to 15-month construction period. Thank you very much for your attention.
Just a couple of exciting events that we have going on. I'm Connie Edmondson, Fayetteville Parks and Recreation Director, and I'm proud to be with this city. There's so many great things we have going on. But wanted to tell you, tomorrow night at the Yvonne Richardson Community Center, we are having a banquet to raise funding for programs for youth at need. and that will be at the town center starting at 6 o'clock, and I think they're sold out, so sorry, but we're really excited that we are going to have that event to raise those funds for those children. Saturday, we'll have an art in the park and puppets in the park at Wilson Park, starting in the morning around 9 o'clock. Around 11 o'clock, we're going to cook up some hot dogs. The first 150 people that come, you can have lunch with us. So come have a hot dog, sponsored by Parks and Recreation, just because we like you to come to our parks and to enjoy them. Just a couple of projects we have going on. I always like to brag about Wilson Park. We have one of the oldest swimming pools around, and it's sturdy, and talk about structural engineers, it just won't die. But it's still there. We renovated the inside of it and the decking for this past summer. People loved it. Right now we're working on renovating and giving a new facelift to the buildings around it, the old bathhouse and the concession stand and the pump house. So we're excited over that. At Walker Park, we're giving a facelift to the concession stand. So many of you that said, I played ball there when I was a kid, we're going to be renovating the baseball concession stand restrooms and making restrooms more available there in the center part of our complex. And at Mount Sequoia Gardens, right now we're building a lookout, which is going to be beautiful. So hopefully it'll be ready for the fall, so we can see the beautiful leaves changing colors. And last but not least, mark your calendars. Saturday, November the 23rd, is Lights of the Ozarks. So we'll be turning on the lights again. Parks and Recreation staff, we have the privilege of putting up about 300,000 LED lights, which is exciting, and it is going to be bigger and better than ever. So we're excited over that. One thing I wanted to visit with you about is one of the most exciting projects, I think, is happening with our city, and that is the regional park. And if you look at this picture, imagine you're up in an airplane and you're looking down at the park. This park is located off of Cato Springs Road. It's on the west side of Highway I-540. It's off of Judge Cummings Road. And what's happening, there we go. This is the Great Lawn. This is the road that you'll come into. The Mount Kessler is the beautiful backdrop for this park. And our park, there's around 200 acres when you put all of our pieces together. The Great Lawn will be located here. And that's what it is, the Great Lawn. It's the area that you'll enter our park. There'll be a large pavilion and a playground. There'll be some sand volleyball courts, and hopefully someday in the future, and this is future, this is the vision for the future, will be the park office right there. Then we'll have our soccer fields. Right now we have close to 1,400 kids playing. There'll be 8 soccer fields, and there'll be parking lots for them. A concession stand is located right there. You can hardly see it back there. And then we have 8 baseball fields. We have close to 900 kids playing baseball. They'll be moved there. And that's a parking lot to help serve them. And then we have a detention pond there. We hope to be as green as possible. Hopefully these detention ponds will also serve as irrigation system to keep our grass and turf nice and green. We're also going to put an amphitheater right up there. And next here is 6 girls softball fields will be moved there. And on down here will be the park maintenance building, a parking lot, some kind of a splash playground park will be created here. And then we'll have our tennis complex, a concession stand restroom, along with our basketball courts there. But I wanted to tell you a little bit, how did we get here? How did we receive this vision? I think it's very important because back in 2000, we did a master plan for our city. Lowson Associates came in and did that plan. And one of the most important things that we wanted to do was to include our public. We wanted to develop a park system that our public wanted. So we had a huge public input by having 10 public meetings, many interviews with key stakeholders in our city, a public survey, and a steering committee. The steering committee met one whole day, and it was comprised of special interest groups and actually anyone who wanted to come. We had 40-plus people, almost 50 people there at that meeting. But after they comprised the master plan, they came up with these priorities. Our citizens wanted a citywide network of trails. I think we've been working on that. Neighborhood and community parks, we've done those. Preservation of natural areas in the open space. We always have our eyes open for that. And they wanted a multi-sport complex with park amenities. They were tired of driving from one side of the city to another side of the city to play ball, soccer, baseball, girls softball. They wanted everything in one location. So that's how we came up with this. After we were given the mission, our Parks Board, our Planning Commission, and our City Council approved the master plan. And so it was our responsibility to come up with some sites for this great regional park. And we came up with 18 potential sites. We looked at, is the land even open for sale? We looked at connection to other amenities. Is it accessible for our citizens and visitors to come? Just cost per acre, and what kind of existing infrastructure is there, and if it had a low environmental impact on that area. There's kind of the 8, but the site, the site we liked is right here, is Isaac. It's off of Cato Springs, west of I-540, and it was called the Judge Cummings Place. Sorry. The site selection, we looked at several things, and what made this land so feasible and that attracted all of us to it was located off of I-540 corridor. And also the land provided a variety of topography, such as rolling hills, wooded areas. Some of it was flat, so we could use areas for athletic fields, trail system, and an amphitheater too. This park also serves as a gateway to our city. It's coming from the south. It has the Dow Cemetery in that area, and it was located near our future trail corridor. That's important to us. And it also had a positive economic impact. It's close and accessible to existing hotels, motels, restaurants off of I-540. This is the view. Whoops. This one's a little bit different. This pointer. But this is the view. You can actually see Old Main very well from this site. So, this is what we came up with. Our city, we have been saving money. Our city has $4.5 million that we have basically saved from our hotel, motel, restaurant tax. That's not only collected from our citizens, it's collected from our visitors. So, of course, we like them to eat in our parks, to eat at restaurants, to sleep in our hotels. So the more you eat out, the more you're helping parks, and thank you very much. If you have visitors, kick them out, make them stay in the hotels, and that will help build our parks. Very important to us. We like to get heads in beds, basically. Our city, with the $4.5 million, what we can do is, with that money, we can build the Great Lawn, and we can build our 6 soccer fields, provide the parking and the concession restroom that's needed. Our city street bond money will build Judge Cummings Road in, will provide that for us. And then we have the $3.5 million bond that is proposed, that was brought before our City Council by the A&P Commission. This is just one part of that vote. And the 3.5 would provide the three of the 8 soccer fields, and the parking that's associated with it. I'm sorry, baseball fields. Thank you, Mayor. And also a large pavilion and a large playground area to serve that. We hope through donations, grants, endowments, to see if we can, we'd like to move baseball all at the same time. But that's our plan. This goes before our citizens. It's back to our citizens again. The bond will be up for vote November the 12th. So that's it.
Okay, that is the reports from the staff. I would also, that I noticed came in while the meeting was going on, is Adela Gray from Ward 1. Adela, I saw Sandra Smith come in, I believe. Yes, Sandra, City Clerk. Thank you for joining us. At this time, we will take questions from the citizens. So we'd like to hear from you all, and we'll answer the questions as best we can. We have about 20 minutes. We're supposed to leave this facility around 8:30. So, who would like to be first? Please introduce yourself if you come to the microphone. Go ahead, Aubrey. Come on up.
That's for you, boss, to reward people with. Or throw it at them.
Here, Aubrey, if you like. Go ahead.
Might need that. Aubrey Shepherd, Mayor Jordan, and council members and staff members, thank you. I'm going to start at the top of this last item we were just talking about. I really hope that big lawn has native grass as tall as it can grow, and it isn't mowed down. Like, it'll be a humiliation in the future for people to have mowed grass instead of tall grass in their parks. And it's been nearly, 4.5 years since Lionel said we were going to see a third of every park in his first speech, State of the City, and a third of every park would be in native grass and so forth. And we recently, it still hasn't happened in all the parks. And some of the parks have much of a nature area. But anyway, that's still a goal that I hope will be supported on this very natural area. It's an environmental disaster to build a park there. It is beautiful land. I was lucky to get to mow some of it. Not mow it. Excuse me, I never mowed. I haven't mowed since I was a kid playing on the lot next door. Baseball is the only thing I mow for. But anyhow, the moving of earth there will be tremendous, and it'll be a big project with a lot of environmental change. So every large tree that can be saved there, every little patch of wetland around the creeks, every way you can set aside some that, even if it's right next to a ball field, even if the ball goes over in the water like they do at Baum Stadium when a good home run's hit, it's still worth it. Somebody out there with a lab can retrieve those before they get soaked. Anyway, on the downtown square, I said this, I think a year ago in a meeting of this, at this same place maybe, that please just put the lights up in the trees and don't take out the flower beds around there, around the square. And down on Block Avenue, where we're also having lights this year, the flower beds should be left as long as possible. Why? Well, birds and butterflies and bees, all the good insects and air quality are all things that require green plants in the fall. Particularly this year on the big African milkweed plants on the east side of the square, there are monarchs. I didn't see a monarch this year in April when they're usually here, May, June, or July.
Again, Aubrey.
On the east side of the square, where the entry to the old post office, the what do you call it, the service entries. Thank you, whoever whispered. I couldn't see your mouth move, but I heard you. Thank you. Anyhow, there are a bunch of monarchs there last week or so, and a lot of little kids got to see them. Of course, I was standing there pointing. You see this? And one little girl had been to the botanical garden the day on Friday, and she in particular walked up. I said, "See the monarchs?" And she said, "Yeah, that was a boy." And I said, "Well, tell us how you know." Well, there's a little spot on one of the two stripes that come down in the back, and it's an enlarged area where the male has a pheromone release site that attracts the girls. So we'd like to see that those caterpillars eggs will be laid right now, and it'll take more than a month before those butterflies go through the process of climbing on, creating a chrysalis. First, the caterpillars have to get big, eating the milkweed. They can only eat milkweed. And when the lights are being turned on, the flowers may not all be in bloom, but if those plants are there, caterpillars, not just monarchs, but other species that have host plants on that square, beautiful native plants in amongst some of those other non-natives, will be developing on that site. And birds will be coming there to eat some of those insects. Some of the birds will be there to eat the seeds from those plants. So it's a beauty spot. Very proud of the square. And of course, it'll cost less if we don't have the staff go in and remove the plants. Some of them they rescue and overwinter. Some of them they just have to discard. And I think they will give you some if you're standing there when they throw them away, right, Connie? They can things they have to pull and stuff that may still have the roots. But we shouldn't say that because they sell bouquets on the square and don't want too much competition. But anyway, another area is from neighbors. I get stoplight needed at 15th and Razorback. If that could be on the list for the transportation folks. And I would, congratulations on the great new things going on with recycling. But I would love to see more, some of the things we're talking about, especially watershed issues. On that downtown, my question was, can the Walton Arts Center parking lot hold 6 inches of rain in some underground storage or something so that it doesn't contribute to the flooding downstream on Tanglewood Branch and flooding even further down, all the way to Beaver Lake? If there's not some underground storage there, there's no more absorbent soil downtown, except where you have some flower beds, where we've got deep soil in some of the flower beds. But anyway, that would be minimum 6-inch rain right now to be held to actually slow down flooding downstream, because all this paving is covering our flat land with flooding. So I would love to see more training for all the workers in all the departments about some of these things. Low impact development. And that several departments are in the process of developing things. Park department has trail and parks and highway and water and sewer and all these things that are out there. So low impact development could make a difference in our watershed, in the cost of cleaning water in both Beaver Lake and downstream on the Illinois River, but Lake Tinker in Oklahoma and so forth. Streamside ordinance, there needs to be coordination in thinking overall about low impact development, streamside ordinance, how to protect the streams when you're building a trail or a street or putting in any kind of facility, because in order to get developers to accept these things, then we need to have city departments modeling these things. Not you can't wait for the private sector. They don't want to change the way they do things, and it's not because it'll cost them more. It may cost them less. They just need to rethink the easy, old-fashioned way. Tree protection, part of the same thing. Urban wildlife resolution the council passed to support 3 years ago or so. Every stick of vegetation, if it's native, is very important for wildlife. And by that, every insect that a bird eats, every earthworm that's in good soil, that birds, you see the robins doing it, but a lot of them do it. There's a naturalized yard option that was passed several years ago, and I'd love to see code enforcement actually have a handout to say, if you will do these things, you can eliminate that waste of gasoline. Billions of dollars are used to mow every year, things that don't need mowing, and it's harmful to the environment nationally. And that's coming out of our budget. I know we've got our park mowers and some of the others, they may have mowers, but now that they're using a less polluting fuel, it's less expensive and so forth, that really helps. And by the way, those engines run fast with those new mowers powered that way. Anyway, it's just a matter of educating the public, all the workers, developers, and us. Every resident has to participate if we're to really have a green city. Thank you.
Thank you all. All right. Who would like to be next? About 10 minutes or so. Anyone? Okay. All right, now let me just recap just a little bit here. Would you like to see the Great Lawn and natural grasses, right, Aubrey? Okay. On the downtown square and the lights of the Ozarks, leave the flower beds, block and square in place, correct? For the butterflies, right?
And the children.
Oh, okay. I'm flowing with you. I'm just making sure I got everything down right. And the stoplight was at 15th and Razorback, correct? Underground storage in the Walton Arts Center, where we would have less flooding on, Tanglewood, thank you.
And that is part of the design. Underground detention is part of the parking deck design.
And more training and low-impact development for the staff, and streamside protection ordinance adhered to closer, correct? And better tree protection. Did I leave anything out?
Sounds good.
I have a question for you. Why do we have less monarchs, do you think, now than before? I mean, have we removed the flower beds, Connie?
Some of them we removed for the next show.
Now, don't take too long, but just tell me why you think.
Some of them we leave in there.
No, I mean, I'm good. Because I'm running out of time.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
If more people had come and spoken, I wouldn't be talking this
Well,
long.
that's okay, but I mean, that's...
But the monarchs are in short supply on both ends of their flight area. They migrate all the way from Canada to Mexico, and some of them fly from across the Gulf of Mexico to get there. And down there, it's a similar thing. Their habitat down there is primarily a certain species of tree that grows in a very limited area where they winter over. And people have been taking out and selling those trees. And I can't even name the trees. You can read about it on the internet. In Arkansas and in most of the United States, milkweed is a very common species or genus, and they're within a mile or less than a mile of my home in South Fayetteville. I found 11 species of milkweed.
Okay, so
But
have we removed milkweed? Is that what
well,
you're saying?
I'm saying that yes, every time something's paved, every time you red dirt somebody's lot,
All right.
and it no longer has absorbent, black, rich soil, these plants are removed with it. And in most cases, they won't grow very well if you put them on top of red dirt in shallow soil. They need to get their roots down. They're perennials. So the monarchs have to have, their caterpillars must have some species of milkweed vegetation to eat.
So we had more milkweed, it would be better.
Well, if we have more natural soil, we'll have more of all of these things.
Okay.
So that's why low-impact development is important. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Here, Aubrey, would you like a water bottle? I think you might need it. But anyway, is there anything else? Okay. I would certainly like to thank, I've got some folks I want to thank here. I want to thank Pastor Smith and St. James Baptist Church for providing this great facility for us tonight. I want to also thank Fritz Giesler and the Government Channel staff, Neil Philby and Doug Bankston, for doing the filming here tonight. Thank you all. I want to thank the staff who came here tonight, all the citizens, and again, we'll do this again. So you like these? Yes, good. All right. We will have one in the future. So thank you all, and appreciate y'all coming tonight. We're adjourned.